Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are doing something slightly different. We are going to be doing a real-time build. So not a speed build, it's not sped up. This will be raw footage, exactly how it is as I've built it. So excuse the imperfections and the fact that it's going to be rather slow. That's one of the things that you're going to get when you're watching it real time. This is my first time trying a real time video. It's not something that I ever considered doing. It just kind of happened, mostly because in a couple of my Facebook groups that I'm in, I saw quite a number of people actually requesting for real time builds over speed builds. Sometimes they find them too fast, they can't keep up, or they just want to see it being done a tad slower. So yeah, I thought I'd give it a go. I am open to any and all feedback, so long as it is constructive, of course. I do want to put out content that you guys find useful. So yeah, that being said, just remember with speed builds on YouTube, you can actually slow the videos down on YouTube. There's a little icon on the bottom right, I believe, and you can adjust the speed of the video. You can speed it up more, which could be rather hilarious, or you can slow it right down. Word of advice though, if you choose to do that, you might want to turn off the sound because I don't know about you, listening to people talking like a whale probably isn't ideal when I'm trying to concentrate on building. So yeah, you got a couple of options there. Um, let's have a talk about this particular build. So as you can see, I am struggling to work out what the heck I was going to do. I had an idea in mind. I wanted to do like a jungle house, and I knew I wanted the stairs to kind of curve up and around. But getting that to happen is sometimes rather difficult when you're working with split levels and terrain. I really like the look of platform stairs, so I wanted to use those. They are my weakness, of course. I can honestly say that probably 90% of my builds now have platform stairs in them somewhere. I still maintain to this day that the platform tool was the best thing they ever added. But that doesn't make it any easier to use. Now, as you can see, we're about 3 minutes in, and maybe 4, and I haven't got very much to show for it. Now, that might just be because I'm a perfectionist, or more to the point, I didn't really know exactly how I wanted to pull it off. So a lot of this is trial and error. But this is what you get with a real-time build. I decided to go for a smaller build, or a smaller lot, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because I have 2 tiny humans who don't sleep for very long during the day and give me not very much time alone to do said recordings and videos. And if I kind of did this while they were awake, you would probably hear them in the background screaming like a pair of banshees. They do have quite a set of lungs on them. So I I really had to go with a smaller lot so that I could get it done, because let's face it, some of the speed builds that I do can take up to like 5-6 hours, sometimes more, depending on how detailed I'm being. So that in real time to record that would be a nightmare. And you know what it's like. You get on a roll, and then once you stop, you've got to try and get going again. Can be tricky. So that's reason number 1 for the smaller lot today. Reason number 2 is mostly because, like I said, the size of the build means that it could take much, much longer. And for the purpose of my first real time, I didn't want to kind of do a massive build that was going to be hours and hours and hours of work if people didn't really find it useful, helpful, if it wasn't really, going to work out. So, yeah. As you can see, I am struggling quite a bit to get these steps to cooperate. I knew what I wanted to do, but getting it to happen was a whole different story. You do have to take your time when you're building over levels and different heights, because I'm sure many, many, many of you have experienced this at least once in your simming career, where you rush through the base of the build and you get through, you decorate it, it's looking great, and then you realize that your Sims can't go up the stairs. I don't think there's anything more frustrating than that. And my computer has nearly set sail out of my window a number of times because I have made that mistake. So, yes, it's a slow start. I'm fully aware of that. But this is the thinking process. This is what happens behind the scenes, I guess. Often when you watch speed builds, it's so clean and everything looks like it just flows. It kind of almost gives a false sense of ability, because often when you're having these moments that you can't get it to work, you edit that out. You get rid of that so that it looks like it flows much easier. And I mean, I'm sure there are builders out there who could stream, who do stream and record, and it just comes out perfect every time. I, however, am not one of those people. It takes me a little while to get my rhythm going. But it's starting to take shape. I managed to connect my stairs to a second level. You would have seen that I used the old floating floor trick. That was going to be the most effective for this particular build. You just put one piece of flooring on top of the other. So the second story, you delete the lower, and then you just move it down. Once I'd done this, I was pretty confident that my steps were going to work the way that I had envisioned. Again, lots of fussing with the height. And this is probably the most time consuming of a build, is the sheer fact that you have to spend so long just laying out where you want everything to be height-wise. Because like I said, you mess that up and oh boy, not good. I am just editing the terrain here because obviously I moved it up slightly to raise the steps, and I don't want the foundation to show. I want it to be like on a hill. I think had I have had more space, or if I had done a bigger build, this probably would have come out a bit better and not so box-like, as you'll see through the build. But I was kind of stuck for space. But it's okay, it doesn't matter. All a learning process. I'm using my fence tool to outline where I'd like my steps. I find this the easiest way when I'm trying to do curved or diagonal or any sort of platform stairs. It just, for me, makes it easier to see what I'm doing and to get it where I want it. Then I can delete those bits around the side that I don't need or want anymore. And you can see now that the stairs are slowly taking shape. I think I had this idea to kind of lower the foundation so that it had like a garage underneath. And for the life of me, because I haven't done it for so long, I was like, oh, how do I do that again? And of course, here we go. I use the basement tool. Not going to work. Because when you use a basement tool, as you can see, it moves the foundation, the ground, the terrain. And so you can't access it. I was like, oh no, how do you do it again? I can't remember. Ah. So hence the long pause. This is me going, what am I doing? How does it work? Nope, that's not going to work either. Maybe if I lower it? No, no, no. In the end, my brain decided to work again. And I was like, that's right. You have to do the floating floor trick. So the reason I wanted to do this in the first place was to sort of illustrate and show everyone some of the things that you might miss in a speed build, I guess, or that might be one of those things that goes too fast and you end up sitting there going, well, what just happened? So I've lowered the terrain. I've put that in it, that room, and as you can see, now it's a nice little room all by itself. So I've raised it up to about the height of the stairs. And then, because I wanted it to be level on the bottom, I've just, raised the terrain again to match it. And I've dragged it out quite wide because I want to make it a slope and have it as like a driveway down to the garage. And once you've kind of got that where you want it, this is me being fussy. I've got to have everything lined up. See, can't think when things are not straight. It's a bad habit. A very bad habit. So I've just copied that room, placed it on top, and of course, this is where you've got to make sure your wall heights are exactly how you want them as you go. Because if you change your wall heights after you do stairs and things like this, connecting rooms to different levels, it just throws it all out, and it's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Make sure your wall height is what you want it to be. I deleted the walls because it was just easier to see what I was doing. And this here is where I'm trying to line it up. So of course I wanted a set of stairs, or I needed, it's a matter of needing a set of stairs to connect here. Obviously I've got to get rid of the fence first, because otherwise it won't connect. And then I just copied the stairs and placed them here. Oh, it was a bit of a mission it was, I tell you. Oh, that's right, because the landing isn't wide enough. So as you can see, it's just not happening because I haven't got enough space on that platform for the stairs to land. Took me a while to work that out. And I was like, oh yes, that's right, need more space. So I've had to move it over a bit because of course it won't connect, being that it's different levels. And once I've done that, boom, there we go, stairs connect. Can't bring it in. You're always going to have a gap there, so it's up to you to decide if you're okay with that, or if you want to fill it in with plants, terrain, whatever. Sometimes you can use the some of the decor items or the debug items to fill it in, seeing as they don't really register. But I usually go with landscaping. That's my thing. So that's how you can kind of put your rooms, have them lower and still accessible. So like if you wanted a basement with a door, you'd do something like this and just lower the terrain around it. Pedantic me needs to get it as close to perfect as I can. So I am very fiddly in these early stages. It can make or break a build, so sometimes it pays to take a little bit more time on the landscaping. So all I'm doing here is smoothing out that edge to make it look a little more natural. Now that I've got everything where I want it, I can start to soften it up a bit. There, I've worked out, raise your walls. And from here, I was pretty happy, but as you can see, those stairs have taken up such a large portion of room that I wasn't left with much on the side to be able to, I don't know, make it less boxy. But I suppose for the purpose of this build and this, first time, it'll work. Here I'm using the smooth tool to create my little driveway. So I always start from the bottom and drag up. I just find it gives a better, like a smoother incline. And I think, yeah, see down the bottom how it's near the wall, which is going to be the garage. It's still got the yellow grid squares. You do need that if you want to put like a proper door there or something. It helps to have that little flat surface, because sometimes, for some reason, and not all the time, but sometimes if you have smoothed out the terrain too close to the wall, they have a bit of a fit and they can't get in the door, and you know what it's like, hands above the head, what's going on? So yeah, sometimes it pays just to have that little section near just even where you want to place the door. But again, here's me being fussy, trying to get it as perfect as I can. There is always a lot of terrain work in most of my builds. I spend a lot of time working on the terrain. A lot. I think it gives builds a bit more dimension. I always find it helpful to, once you've done a slope or something like that, if you're using paints, because of course if you put floor tiles down, it will actually flatten it out. So if you have got a slope, it's best to use the paints. But I like to outline that as soon as possible. There is a glitch in the game sometimes where you'll build and you'll use the floor paint. And for some reason, when you come back in, like if you save it and leave the game or leave that build and you come back, sometimes it's disappeared, which is a little annoying, because then like, oh my god, where's the slope gone? I want them to walk on that bit. But yeah, I prefer to outline it relatively early in the build. It helps me focus on where I'm going to put the garden, where I'm going to put the footpaths, where I want them to walk, and where I don't want them to walk. And of course, save. Saving is very important. I also know that there's probably a lot of us out there who have made that fatal error where you've been working so hard that you forget to save and the game crashes, you lose the lot. Like, I just want to cry when that happens. Oh, it's so sad. So yes, save very often. Also something that gets cut out of speed builds, or that happens so quickly that you just don't notice it. But save, people. Save your work. So here I am starting to decide what I was doing. The stairs was about as far as my thought process went. I knew I wanted that, and I knew I wanted the slope down to the garage. Outside of that, this is all freelance. This is all just happening as it comes to me. I thought maybe I'd put like a big glass window there, but I changed my mind. I decided I wanted it more like a balcony. And then I was like, okay, that's cool. Now what? Now where? I used to build by floor plan. So I'd lay out all the rooms in the house, like I'd do it inside out. So put all my rooms in and then try and make the exterior look pretty. I found doing it that way that the floor plan was great, but the exterior rubbish. So now I tend to build from the front and go from more of a aesthetic point. So making sure the front looks really good and then working my way through the build, which has its perks because, you know, when you upload it to the gallery, it looks fantastic because you've worked so hard on the front, but it does mean that sometimes the floor plan is not so perfect. Sometimes you have to really get creative to get all the rooms in that you need. Here I'm just trying to work out where I want the build to go because by the front, as you saw, it was rather box-like, still is rather box-like. So I needed to stick something out somewhere, and obviously I didn't have side. Get your teeth in. Didn't have room on the other side, so I decided to build out this way. And back to the terrain. I didn't want it to be a floating room, so I raised the terrain up to meet it and then flattened it out. My intention was to cover the sides with rocks and have like a nice gardenscape to kind of conceal the fact that it was somewhat floating. So I just matched that up to the height of that second story, like so. And then a little bit of smoothing just to make it look a little more natural. You can do this with the grid off if you want a better view. Sometimes I'll do that. Sometimes I'll leave the grid on. It really depends on the build and what I'm trying to get from it. So there are always lots of different ways to achieve something. Okay, so that's pretty much the basis of this build. I think I ease up on the landscaping a bit now. That's sitting pretty much okay. A lot of the imperfections can be hidden with shrubs and plants and flowers and things like that. So yes, I kind of paused for a second to think where to next. Sometimes I will do the landscaping. Sometimes I'll lay out the whole build first. It really just depends how I feel at the time. There's not really any hard and fast way. I don't sit down to a build and just do the same. Like I don't attack them the same way every time. It really just depends. Yeah. I would love to know from you guys the sorts of things that you would like to see in a real-time build. What is it that you're actually interested in getting from a real-time build that you're perhaps not getting from the speed builds? I know some of the feedback that I saw on Facebook was that it just went too fast and they missed a lot of it. So if that's the case, let me know. If it's more that you want to see the tips and the tricks as they're being constructed in a home or a build instead of a tutorial, if it's that type of a thing, then yeah, just drop it in the comments below because I'd love to know what it is what's missing from speed builds that you're looking for in this particular type of real-time build. I got to this point and I was like, I don't know where I'm going to put the front door. I kind of didn't really think that one through. So I've made a little gap. And obviously because I'm going front to back in the way that I'm building, I was left with a few issues here that my need to have everything lined up was not being met. But I eventually worked that out to look symmetrical, and left a space for the door. And from here, I again had a very long pause, and this was either A, because I was thinking, or B, because one of my children were knocking at the door. Either one of those is a very strong possibility. But yeah, you can see it's very boxy, and of course I can't cope with that being uneven, so gotta fix that. Thank you. Yeah, quite boxy, but I don't know, I think I managed to do something with it. I really wish I had more space on the right side to drag it out a bit more, but I was right up against the edge of the lot. There was nowhere to go. So I was kind of like, okay, well, that's it. I'm just adding these little square rooms just to give it a bit more depth and dimension to the build, because it was so square and flat. That's a good tip. Sometimes if you just need to make it a little less boxy, just give it some little square one tile rooms on either side, and it gives it a bit more kick. Here I am trying to get the vibe of the build. I wanted it to be jungle-ish, obviously, because that's the name of the build. But I also wanted it to be semi-suburban, semi-modern. I didn't want it to be rustic, that much I knew. Not a rustic jungle build, more of a modern vibe. I have only been building modern type houses for maybe 12 months, so it's still a learning curve for me. Sometimes I nail it, sometimes not so much, like this build. But hey, it's all good practice. I'm using the freezers to give it a bit more oomph, a bit more shape, just to tidy it up a bit. I think it makes it look a bit cleaner. Obviously I have no idea what I'm doing, so I'm spinning the camera around a lot, thinking. I decided to go with a pool up there, I know that much. Yeah, here it comes. I thought a jungle build needed a pool, but I kind of, once again, not left myself with very much space, so it ended up being on the second story. You can do that. You can put pools on a second story. It just leaves that room below, obviously, useless. So you've got to make sure if you're doing this that you've got enough space. And you can see I've left it one tile. You can take it all the way to that fence line, and it probably wouldn't make much of a difference, but I wanted the space around the top to be able for them to be able to walk around the pool. Here is where I realized how boxy this build actually was. Some people don't mind a boxy build, and I never used to, but I guess I think that the builds that have more curves and angles are the ones that get the most attention, because they just look, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. They just look, they've got more of a wow factor, I think, because there's so much going on, and when you look at them, you're like, oh my god, how did that happen? How is that like that? But yeah, one of the limitations of a small lot. And I still wanted to make it a rather large house. I still wanted it to be able to house a few Sims. And naturally, when you put a garage in, because we don't truly have garages, it is kind of a wasted space, but I thought maybe it would be something that you guys would like to see created real time. So to make your fake garage door, 2 columns either side, as I've just done, and then you can pick whatever wallpaper you like. It really doesn't matter what you use, just so long as it's different to the wallpaper that you use on either side. That way it kind of stands out. These are the windows that I like to use the most. They just fit perfectly. And of course you can do them all the way up and down. You can use different windows. There's no hard and fast rules, but this is a pretty easy basic way to create that fake garage door look. And I think I changed my mind and changed the color of the windows later on, but that's the process anyway. You can get little like awnings, I guess, in your decor section that you can size down and use as like a handle if you feel the need to have a handle on your garage door. I'm going with the fact that it's such a modern house that it's remote controlled. It doesn't need a handle. This is also a good thing to bear in mind when you're doing houses, when you're building. Often we just blanket the outside with the same paint, and while it's easy and convenient, it can look very plain, I guess, just one-dimensional. Whereas if you use a few different wallpapers, sometimes that can make it pop a bit more. I'm obviously using this particular paint to create like the column effect, and I'm only doing it in certain areas. And then I will choose a different paint to fill in other areas. And yeah, sometimes it just gives it that little bit more dimension. I was not happy with the front here. I didn't like the way it looked. It was really starting to irk me, so I had to do something about it. But what? That is the question. And I was also concerned about the amount of space that I had not left myself. So I decided to pull it back in line a bit. And I think I get rid of that floor. I wanted to use big windows and have it very open at the front. And having that floor piece there, I thought might just, I don't know, close it in too much. So yeah, I removed that and put this roof up here instead. These floor pieces come in real handy when you're trying to add a little bit of decorative touch. If you put the floor on like so, you'd be able to put the awnings around the top, and that can give it a bit more of a decorative vibe. It's all those small little details that you add to a build, the things that you might not normally do if you're just rushing through it maybe, just to get a house done for your sim. But if you actually slow down and take your time and do it, you know, step by step, you can surprise yourself with what you come up with. Don't be afraid to try new things, even if it looks rubbish. I mean, that's pretty much what's happened here for me. I just went with it, tried a few different things, and yeah, okay, it didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it, but there are certain aspects that I've added that I think, oh yeah, that's really cool. I'm going to put that in my next build. Or it gives me an idea for something else. So like the stairs, I like the stairs. I like having that little bridge. And although in this build I just put garden around it, you could in fact put like a pond under it, have a waterfall somewhere. So yeah, messing about with things and changing everything, taking your time are always good tips. If you start building and you start finding that you're rushing through it, or you're just losing the motivation, just stop. Save it, stop, go and do something else for a while and come back fresh. That's when you're going to get the most out of your build. So here I was deciding The colour scheme, I knew I wanted the white, but I didn't really know what else I wanted. So I went in the end with the brown. White and brown always make a good combo, strangely enough. But these are the freezers that I was talking about earlier. Just add them and it just cleans it up. Just covers that bit and makes it look a bit neater. Here I was trying to decide whether I wanted it to go all the way around or whether I wanted it only to be on certain sections. If you hold shift while you're placing these, then you can select exactly where instead of it going all the way around that particular floor piece. It might just do, like it will just do the one side that you want. I wanted big windows and I thought about, because the fact that I only had 3 tiles, originally I wanted it to be just one big window, but it wasn't going to work for me. I had 3 tiles to work with, so 3 individual windows is what I went for. And this is where I decided that actually they should probably be brown to break it up a little bit. It was just a bit too white down there. So yeah, I changed all of these windows to be brown. Very time consuming. I'm sure there's a quicker way. But I was in a bit of a go slow while I was building this. Save. Very important. Save as you go. Save. You know, I've just had an epiphany while I've been recording this. Another reason why speed builds are done, as opposed to these real-time builds, is the amount of talking. There is a lot of talking required for this. So I suppose that brings me to a good point and a good question for you guys. Real-time builds. Do you want the full-on commentary? Is that helpful? Or would you prefer just some background music? Or a bit of both? Maybe you just want explanations on some of the more tricky aspects, I guess. Some of the things that you might need to be talked through. And then music for the rest. I don't know. Drop me a comment. What do you think? Voiceovers? Background music? A bit of both? None at all? Leave it in the comments. So here I'm tediously going around and filling in my paint. Obviously, like I said before, it just breaks it up. Sometimes it gives the build a bit more dimensions. A bit more, yeah, dimension. A cool vibe, let's go with that. And it was about here that I thought, well, I'm gonna cover this place with a lot of greenery, a lot of shrubbery. So this side, I was pretty lost with. I was like, do I put the white there? Do I put the brown there? There's pillars here, but then there's not there. I think I decided, yeah, we'll just cover the whole lot on that side. In the end, added some windows in. By this point in my mind, I'm going, okay, well, where's the kitchen going to go? Where's the living room going to be? Where are the bathrooms going? Often we'll place windows in a build and then you go to add in the rooms and it's like ginormous windows in a place where you need the bathroom, or you've got no windows in the dining room. I try to go put windows in as I go, just so that I can have a semi idea where I'm going to be putting rooms and walls and things. And of course, in a build that has multiple levels, the stairs. Oh, the amount of times I have left myself nowhere to put the stairs. You'd think I'd learn, but apparently not. And this build was no different. I got to here and went, I've got to put stairs in somewhere. Whoopsie. Should probably do something about that. I had envisaged that I would use platforms as well as stairs. But to try and get it to work in the small amount of space that I had took a little bit of work. So once again, trusty old fence tool to lay out how I wanted my platforms to work. And you'll see it didn't exactly go according to plan. I had to change it around a few times. But, you know, we got there in the end. That's the important thing. I wanted to raise it only slightly because I only had the medium wall and I'd already put the long windows in. So I didn't want to, you know, throw it out too much. Because even though you have platforms in the rooms, the windows will still snap to the wall length. So when you look through the window at a certain angle, if your platform's too high, you can see through it, but you can't actually put anything under there to fill it in. So, minor detail, but it irks me. I don't like it. I'm on Struggle Street here trying to work out how exactly I'm going to get these stairs to work. I really wanted the platforms to go up maybe once or twice before having the stairs on it, but it just wouldn't work for me. I couldn't get it to line up. And quite frankly, by this point I was watching the clock, trying to be as quick and efficient as I could. You'll see, like, the build this size still took a good 2.5 hours. At least, I reckon. And that was just the building. That wasn't the furnishing. That's extra time. I kind of got to this point and still hadn't managed to work out those stairs. I was getting a little bit frustrated because I knew what I wanted to do, but it just wasn't working for me in the space that I had allocated. Obviously, I could have made it work, but then I wouldn't have had any room left in the build to put a kitchen or a dining room, and yeah. So I was kind of just thinking, and the best way I do that is just by trial and error. Just trying a few different things, see if they work. That's kind of what The Sims is all about. There's not a hard and fast way. It's just kind of make it up as you go along, really. And often you'll find things that you didn't know were even a possibility. It just happens by accident most of the time, and then you're kind of like, oh, that's actually rather cool. Especially when you have move objects on. Quite often, in fact, I have put that cheat on with the intention to do something, and I've accidentally clicked something somewhere that I didn't intend to, and lo and behold, I've merged two objects. And sometimes it looks absolutely ridiculous, and other times it kind of creates something cool. That's sort of what happened when I made my custom crib with no CC, no custom content. I just was playing around with move objects because I wanted to not even do a crib. I think I was trying to make a change table or something. It wasn't a crib. But I ended up putting a couple of objects together and going, well, hang on a second, that would probably work for a crib. Let's try it. And yeah, so if you haven't seen that and you're interested, do jump on the gallery and have a look. It's I think I've called it something like base game nursery, something like that. Yeah, fully base game, and it's a custom crib. It looks a little different to just the stock standard. And while I'm still struggling with these stairs, I would love to know what you guys think would make some good kits, because up until now I've been rather adverse to them. I don't particularly like most of them, and I don't really want to spend my money on them. Having said that, I saw a post the other day on Instagram, and somebody was asking, you know, if about kits and whether or not someone had made a custom content version. And I thought it was actually a really good idea for something that EA could do for us. Cough, cough, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Um, Weddings. It's having like proper, like a kit with a whole bunch of wedding stuff, like different dresses and flower bouquets, shoes, things like that. Maybe some, some extra decorations or things to be used for it, or the ability to have an event, even if it was a game pack, the ability to have more in-depth wedding events and funerals and things like that. So I thought that was a really cool idea. And then I saw another one for, like proper baby stuff to make them more interactive, like the strollers and, different cribs and things like that, to make it a bit more not so basic, I guess, not so monotonous. Because it always seems to be like you've got in base game, I think, like what, one, maybe two choices, maybe different colors, sure, but it's still the same look. So yeah, I thought they were some cool ideas, and I wonder what you guys would like in a kit pack. What would be your ultimate? Because I think I would like those like a wedding one, or one that would make babies more interactive. They sound cool. I'd probably go for that. If there was a stair kit that allowed us to have round stairs or curved stairs, oh my god, I'd be all up in that. That would be like my dream come true. I want round walls. I think that's half the problem that I'm having with this staircase, because I wanted it sort of to wrap around, and it just wasn't happening. I wanted it round. But eventually I get there. I had to fiddle around quite a bit, and then I was left with that awkward little square bit, but I thought ahead, and I'm probably going to turn that into like a little closet area. You can put your shoes there, your hat, your coat, that type of thing. So I did think ahead. Here I'm just trying to work out the color scheme a bit backwards, and I end up having to redo it a few times, but it just helps me get a vibe, get a feel for what I'm doing. And I learnt something new myself. I always thought any wall under the stairs would cut it off, but apparently not. Certain heights under stairs are a-okay. That one, no. But the shorter one, yes. And I don't know if I've done it before and just not realised, or if this was truly a new epiphany. I don't know. But yeah, there you go. You can put some half walls under stairs without it having a bit of a meltdown on you. I was assessing my space here, because once I'd spent so long on those stairs, I realised I actually needed stairs to go down to the lower level. And I was like, oh dear, I've messed up here. I have not considered this well enough. So in my true fashion, I decided to avoid and move on to something else for a little bit. That way, hoping not to get too frustrated, that I would just turn the game off or stop building. I'm just putting the windows in. As you can see, they didn't quite line up, so I needed to use the keyboard cheats to just raise it up slightly. In this instance, Control and 9 raises objects up that might otherwise not want to go there. And if you're not too sure about what all those cheat codes are, I mean, I don't use mods, and a lot of times you watch speed builds, like I said earlier, and they twist and move things in all sorts of places that it's just not possible without the mod. But there are some things that you can do, and you do have a little bit of extra freedom if you apply these little cheats. So I don't want to go into them fully here. If you want to know more about that, how to raise objects up and down, how to shrink them or size them up, make them bigger, things like that, or even just more about the move objects cheat and layering things, please feel free to check out the link that's popping up in the top right hand corner now that will take you to a video where all those things will be covered. So if you want some more information on that, do check it out. I was indecisive about doors here. I have a great number of packs, not all of them, but you know, most of them. And would you believe I still couldn't find a door that I liked for this build? I always have these grand ideas, and then I go looking through the packs and I just can never find what I want. I wish, I don't know, I wish we could adjust the height of doors and windows. Like, why can't I have like a little icon, a little circle there, and I can just raise that up ever so slightly? Keep the door, keep the style. I just wanted it a bit higher, that's all, so it would, you know, take up a bit more room. But no, we can't have that. Maybe they should do that in an update. We can size up objects using a cheat, I'm sure. Couldn't they? Couldn't they just make it so that we could, you know, drag them a little bit higher or lower? Anyway, I got over it in the end and settled for this door. But actually, thinking about it, I'm pretty sure I changed it later because, once again, I didn't leave myself enough space. And I wanted it to be a 2-bedroom home, and it wasn't looking like that with that massive glass door. So, fairly certain I gave it the flick. I decided to go for a patio area out the back here. I mean, I could have extended the house, but I felt like it was already too square, and extending that top level all the way out to the edge, I think would have just made it look too block-like. So I decided to keep that whole back bit open just to give it a bit more dimension. And also because who has a pool area without some sort of decking or seating or lounging area close by? At least not anywhere that I've been. So that is what I went with. I extended out this half wall and then just dragged over that roof to cover it in. It's very handy, actually. It took me a long time to work out how to get the top section, how I've raised up that bit to be the roof. It took me forever to work out that you could actually put the half walls around it and have the paint matching, because I used to flip my lid that I couldn't get it to match. And I avoided modern builds for so long because of it. It never dawned on me. I never even crossed my mind. Put a half wall there and the paint will match. So there's a hot tip if you haven't found that one out like me all those months ago. I think at this point I was pretty much on a roll. I had completed the exterior of the build, and now I was just trying to work out exactly what paint to put where, just to make it flow. Still didn't know what to do with this sidewall, and gave in and just coated it in the same paint. And then in this particular build, I left the garden to last, which often I don't do. I'm not sure what possessed me this time, but it's just kind of the way it went. And I think in the end it actually worked out well, because leaving the garden to last made it easier for me to just concentrate on the build and then hide the imperfections with any number of plants. Sometimes if I go the other way around and I do all the gardening first, I then realize, oh, actually, no, I want that bit of wall to stick out a bit more, or I want that window to be a bit different. And then you have to redo the whole gardening section. And, oh, it's a nightmare sometimes if you do it that way, because you put all that effort in only to have to delete it and start again, which is, yeah, no, not a good feeling. Now, obviously, because this is a real-time build, there is no way on this planet that I was going to put the whole build into one video, because that would have just been way too much, way too full on. So this is going to be a 3-part build. The first two, of course, are going to be the build itself. That is usually the most time consuming because obviously you've got to get everything right, you've got to get the layout right, there's all the gardening and the landscaping, all those types of things. So that is always going to be the majority of any speed build. So same goes for the real time. Two parts will be dedicated to the construction and the build itself, and part 3 will focus solely on the interior decorating. So yeah, bear in mind that while this video will shortly come to an end, there will be another 2 parts. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you don't want to miss out on seeing the other 2 parts, make sure you do subscribe. And if you hit the little notification bell icon, you'll also get notifications instantly whenever I post a new video. That way you'll get kind of like a reminder. So if this is something that you're interested in or any of my videos, yeah, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you're not going to miss out on the other parts to this. One thing that I haven't done, I must say, I have not played the scenarios yet. I know it was a big thing when it came out and I was super excited to give it a go, but I'm such a sucker for building that I just never got round to it. And then the holidays came and I took a bit of a break to spend some quality time with my little kidlets. So I wasn't in game for nearly a month, if not longer. You know what it's like at that time of the year, it's proper chaos. So I never got round to it. And I had ideas, and I did post this question on Instagram. Got a little bit of feedback, but I thought I'd just throw it out there again now that we're in the new year. Whether or not people would be interested in a little mini series, I guess, of the scenarios. Would that be helpful? Would it be something that you'd like to see just for, something to watch if you're bored? Or because I know a lot of people do like let's plays and I just don't have the time or, quite frankly, the skill to put together videos like that. So yeah, I thought maybe just like a little walkthrough type series of the scenarios so that people could see them being played out, get a half an idea. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Is that something you'd be interested in? Here we go again with these stairs. As I said before, I forgot to put in stairs for downstairs. And then I had the same struggle that I did before and that I was procrastinating, trying to avoid. Again, I wanted it to be the split level drop between the stairs so that they would descend over like 2 or 3 steps, but I didn't leave myself enough space, and that's all it boils down to, is that a small build, if you want to do funky, cool things with the stairs, you need a lot of space. So usually I build on the biggest lots possible, the 64 by 64. That's my favorite. But yeah, like I said earlier, for the purpose of this, it just wasn't feasible. So watch me struggle with these stairs one more time. And I'm a little bit quicker this time. I get it done a little bit faster. Here's a hot tip. As you can see, I'm on the top level, but the stairs are falling down to the bottom. If you have stairs and you want to see from the top angle, from this angle, what they look like, you can hold control and they'll actually drop down through the floor. Just a little hot tip there. In the end, I decided to scrap that. It was just getting a bit too complicated. I was running out of time and, quite frankly, I was getting frustrated and a little bit over it. So I ended up going with just the basic walls, realizing that this was dropping down into where the garage was anyway, and that I only had room upstairs for kind of like the kitchen and the dining area along with the entry. I thought, well, it's okay. This can just be like the lounge area down here. And that's pretty much what I went with. I hadn't put in the rooms down here, obviously, so I thought it best to kind of plan that out. Because, yeah, kitchen, dining room, entry, and that was it. Didn't have room for anything else there. And upstairs, I was like, oh, well, heck, I'm not going to have room for anything, and I don't even have a bathroom yet. This needs to change. I don't have room. So, like I said, one of the pitfalls of building from the outside in, focusing on the aesthetics, is that your floor plan often ends up a little bit cramped, and you kind of just really have to get creative, I guess, to fit it all in. I was thinking maybe I could squeeze a bathroom in here or a toilet, but I didn't want it to get too cramped, so I was like, oh, how do I do this? Because it only really needed to be a toilet. It didn't have to be a full bathroom on the entry level, but yeah, I decided that if it was going to be a bathroom there, I kind of wanted it to be somewhat segregated from the rest of the open plan area. And in the end, I just went with the basic square with one more wall just to sort of tuck it in behind that corner. And I figure that I'd do something to kind of hide the fact that the bathroom was there. Pretty happy with that level, so went back up and realised, oh, bollocks. I haven't got any room to really have as many bedrooms as I originally wanted. I definitely wanted two. I would have been happy if I could have got more in, but I ended up with what would be the master there, and then this is where the door change came, because I was like, I mean, in hindsight, looking back over it again, I probably could have left that and made the master on this side. But then everyone would be going through the master to get out to the pool deck, and I still needed a proper bathroom for them to shower in. Otherwise, they'd be outside in the pool, bathing in there instead. I left it like that, went back down eventually, and finished off that bottom level. I wanted to put a laundry in ever since, like, I know unless you have laundry day, it's kind of a waste of space. But there's something about, I don't know, the reality of it, like to have it more realistic. I feel like they need to have a laundry, even if it's not functional. That's my big thing at the moment. I'm into laundries. I like them in every build, and butler's pantries. I went looking at some display homes the other week with a friend, and oh my lord, some of the designs with the butler's pantries curved around. Yeah, it's definitely my jam. I really, really, really love butler's pantries, and especially the ones that then have like the window that faces out to like a pool deck area, and you can have like the bar service area in the butler's pantry. Super cool. In fact, I've done something similar like that in my kitchen tips and tricks video. I'll pop the link up in the top right hand corner now. I've created a sort of indoor-outdoor bar, which would be cool in a build like this if I had have left myself enough space to do it. I think it would really fit in well with the jungle vibe, having an indoor-outdoor bar. Just adding some extra windows to let in some natural light to that lower area. I decided not to put them in the garage because, you know, garages don't really have all that many windows. If they do, they're usually much smaller. And then I was left trying to find a door that I liked. Oy, so stressful. Doors stress me out. I must say Spa Day is a good one. I get a lot of good stuff. I use a lot of build items from Spa Day. I think Spa Day is probably one of my favourite packs because of the windows and the doors. And some of the, like the water fountains, like the features and stuff. Very calming, very relaxing. And those little stone wall bits, the pond decoratives, they come in handy with so many things, just to polish it off and give it a bit more depth, like flower beds and things like that. So we are definitely coming towards the end of this particular video. As I said, this is my first time doing something like this, and I apologize if it's been slow going. One of the pitfalls of a real-time build. I would really appreciate it if you guys would leave your comments below and give me some constructive feedback on what you think of this style of video, and perhaps any improvements that could be made for any future videos of this nature. That would be greatly appreciated. I guess another good question to ask is, in terms of real-time builds, would you prefer full builds of a house like this, including the interior design, or would you prefer perhaps just like the room builds? If you're on Facebook or Instagram, you will have seen them everywhere. They call them like the dollhouse effect, where they've got the walls on two sides as opposed to all four, and you can see into the room. Would dollhouse rooms be a better option for real-time builds? Do you think that the length of that would be more appropriate, or that you'd be more interested in watching something shorter? Or yeah, let me know. There's another good question that you can answer in the comments below. As we come very close to the end of this video, I'll just let you know a little bit about what the next video is going to contain. Obviously, it is the second part of the build. Quite a lot of that is the landscaping. You'd be amazed how many times I have created a build and I've hated it all the way through, but I persevered. And once I've added the landscaping in, it's changed the entire build. I go from hating it to absolutely loving it, because all those details can really make or break a build. So even if the shell itself is, you know, not exactly what you want, it's always worth continuing just to see how it turns out when you add the details. So things, when I first started playing The Sims, way back when, I remember The Sims 1 like it was yesterday. That first tiny little map that was just the little round road. I loved that game. The burglars, they were the funniest. Anyway, I remember all the way back then playing, and the houses that I would build, oh gosh, they were terrible, if I'm honest. I would put walls in, not know how to delete them, and then there'd just be random objects that I couldn't move because I didn't know how to delete. Everything would be on fire and everything would be burnt. It was crazy. It was manic. I would never put in like any sort of decoratives. My houses were literally square boxes with the basics: a fridge, a bed, somewhere to cook, somewhere to sleep, somewhere to shower. That was it. That was it. And then I was always wondering why my Sims hated their house. No wallpaper, nothing. No decorative touches whatsoever. So, yeah, the point I'm making is the details matter. Yes, it's time consuming. Yes, it can be highly frustrating at times, but the details do matter. And something that looks quite plain and ordinary to begin with can actually turn out to be really, really epic if you give it a chance. So that was pretty much me through this whole build. I was not happy with the way the shell came out. It wasn't what I had envisioned, but I persevered. And in the end, once I put all the landscaping in and all the, you know, finishing touches like the plants, the lamps, things like that, all the decor items like the little garden gnomes, rocks, things that just kind of give it a bit more, I don't know, they make it more realistic, a bit more inviting. Once I added all that in, I actually didn't mind how it turned out. And it could be as simple as adding a chimney or using some of those roof items just to give it a bit of flair. And just because it's a roof item doesn't mean that you can't size it up or down and use it as something else. So always try and think outside of the box. It's a hard thing to do when you're first getting started, but that's how a lot of the great things get found out about The Sims. It's just trial and error and people accidentally doing things and going, oh, hey, that actually works really well. I'm going to put that on TikTok. And then it becomes viral. Everyone wants to know how to do it. I, by accident, created a hot tub well when the cottage living came out. I found a debug well. So when you type in the debug cheats and you go through the menu, if you're only going through the cottage living stuff, there comes up the well that's got the title, whatever it's called, can't remember. And then there's one a little bit further down and it's labeled debug. So I'd taken that out, and originally I was like, oh, you know, wouldn't it be cool if I made like a little flower garden in there? I could fill it up with pots and things. I could make like a fairy garden, because I was building quite a romantic cottage at that point. And then I accidentally grabbed a hot tub and placed it down. Pure fluke. Voila. It worked. It gave me the idea. I was like, wait a second, that could be cool. And it did. It did work. I had to use, again, lots of landscaping around it to hide the fact that parts of the hot tub stuck out of the well. But it turned out looking really cool and it was functional. So things happen by accident all the time if you just give it the opportunity and you just play around with the stuff. It's the details. If you haven't seen it, you can check out the video on my Instagram or Facebook. It's there. And the build itself is on the gallery. Cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it is one of the cottage living ones. And it will have it in the description. So feel free to peruse through my gallery. I have quite an array of builds. I don't really have a style. It just kind of comes as it comes. But yeah, so as you can see, I'm starting the landscaping, just placing a few things here and there to get an idea and to lay out where I wanted the garden versus where I didn't. And most of next video will be the landscaping. I'm holding Alt there to freely move it, which makes life a bit easier, and to rotate it, as you can see, just so that they're not all facing the same way. Again, just breaks it up, gives it a bit more depth to the build. And you'll also see in the next video, part 2 of this, how I create the rock wall around where that dirt mound is, where it's brown. All of that will become rocks, and it will be as if the house is sitting up on the rocks. So many of you probably already know how to do that. It's been a trick that a lot of simmers have used for a long time, but if it's something new to you and you're interested, stay tuned for next time. So I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. Please do leave your comments down below. I really would appreciate your feedback, and happy simming until next time. Bye. Thanks for watching my video, guys. If you enjoyed what you saw and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe, and also click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on new content. You can also check me out on my socials.